YouTube, hello, good morning. My name is Jake Asman. Welcome in to my channel. I appreciate all of you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. And man, oh man, do we have a lot to talk about. I am recording this, if you're watching this after the fact, on a Wednesday morning. So the Jets do have their initial 53-man roster. The Jets obviously made a trade yesterday involving a former mid-round pick in the Mike Maccagnan era and Chris Herdon. So we will talk about that. And we also have more evidence that Joe Douglas is really good at his job, that Joe Douglas knows what he's doing. So we'll talk about all that and much more. But first, if you're new to the channel, please do me a favor and subscribe down below. Like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. And, of course, continue to support this channel. I certainly do appreciate it. Why do I ask you to subscribe and like? Well, YouTube's algorithm rewards people to get more likes on their videos. So basically, if you watch this video and you're already subscribed, just hit the thumbs up button, comment your thoughts, and that helps grow the channel. So thanks so much for your support since I really started taking this thing seriously. And we, of course, will have plenty of Jets content throughout the upcoming season, in addition to clips from my national show, which airs on Sports Map Radio every single Saturday. With that being said, let's get to the news of the day. To me, yes, the 53-man roster is a big deal, and I have some thoughts just on the initial 53. Mind you, the Jets have the second claim in waivers, so the team they have right now will certainly not be the team that they have, even week one. I think there's still a chance the Jets add some pieces to this team. But the news of the day was Chris Herdon getting dealt to Minnesota. The Jets trade Herndon and a 2022 sixth-round pick to the Vikings, and they get back a 2022 fourth-round pick. Now, I know there were some Jet fans that felt really like, why are we getting Chris Herdon? Like, who's going to play tight end for us? The reality is Chris Herdon just wasn't a fit on this team anymore, right? He had plenty of opportunities all summer long to take a stranglehold of this job, and he couldn't do it. Like, Chris Herdon never won this job, and he should have been the guy that won this job. New coaching staff, new opportunity, and he just couldn't get it done. This guy just never was the same player that we saw at the end of his rookie season in 2018, where him and Sam Darnold looked like they really had a chemistry going, and Herndon made a bunch of plays. It just never worked out. So the Jets also released Kenny Yeboah and Ryan Griffin. So you're looking at a Jets tight end room right now that has Wesco, who's more of a fullback, and the starting tight end is going to be Tyler Croft, who most recently played with the Bills and had that big game against the Green Bay Packers in the second preseason game. Now, do the Jets have a great tight end room? The answer is no. Do I think they're done addressing the room, though? I do not. And this goes back to something that I talked a lot about with the Jets and the tight ends. They're not going to be a tight end heavy offense. They're just going to use a lot of the receivers they have. They kept, 7 wide receivers? They're going to use the receivers they have in the tight end type of role, right? Guys in the slot running patterns you would traditionally see a tight end run. So West Coast offense, get the ball out quick. They don't necessarily need a tight end. I know people look at the Niners and say, what did the Niners do in their offense? That's what the Jets will model their style around. Well, the Niners had George Kittle. So other than the Chiefs with Travis Kelce and maybe a couple other teams feel really good about their tight end, most teams don't have a player anywhere close to a player as good as George Kittle. So it was never realistic that the Jets were going to be heavy tight end oriented. I have heard from some people that they are looking to potentially swing a trade for another tight end. The Jets will use waivers to add another tight end. So look, losing Chris Herndon, I'm sorry, I've never been a Herndon guy. I made the mistake and thinking he was going to break out in 2019. Didn't happen. This guy's Jet career, unfortunately, has been marred by suspensions and injuries, right? I mean, he finishes his career with the Jets with 71 catches and 796 yards and 7 touchdowns in 33 games. And, let's be real, most of that damage happened at the end of the 2018 season. He just has not been a good player. So that brings me to my next point here. The fact of the matter that Joe Douglas was able to get a top 4 round pick for Chris Herndon, I think is astonishing. Like, think about the Jets here, right? They got more for Chris Herndon than what the Eagles gave up to get Gardner Minshew, who is arguably now the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Like, think about NFL draft trades that happen, and you got a 4th-round pick for Chris Herndon, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. I think that's a steal for the Jets. Herndon was never going to work here. The Jets, you got to trust that they know their own players, right? This coaching staff, new staff came in, evaluated the roster. Joe Douglas has had Herndon here for a couple of years. They kind of know what he is. Like, maybe he could be a decent player in Minnesota, but worth a 4th-round pick? I think not. So the fact of the matter that the Jets were able to turn Chris Herndon, who had no real future with the team, into another pick inside the top 130 of the 2022 draft is really unbelievable. So now let's talk about what Joe Douglas has done in the last couple seasons. He has laid the foundation for the Jets to have success going forward, right? This is a rebuilding year. And in the first round, you draft your franchise quarterback. You take Elijah Vera Tucker, who you move up for with the Vikings. So the Jets, of course, have a really good relationship with Minnesota to swing deals. So you have AVT. And then, end of the or beginning of the second round, and you bring in Elijah Moore. So your foundation is being set on this team after you took Mekhi Becton in the 2020 draft, right? You make the Jamal Adams trade, which was a great trade at the time. It's going to look even better as we go on. That's a promise to every Jet fan out there. So now looking ahead, the Jets have 10 picks in the 2022 NFL draft. 7 picks out of the 10 are in the first 4 rounds. First round pick, they have their own in Seattle. Second round pick, they have their own in Carolina because of the Darnold trade. Third round pick, the Jets own their own third round pick. Fourth round, they have the Panthers' fourth round pick because of the Darnold trade and the Vikings' fourth round pick now because of this Herndon deal. Fifth round, they own their own pick and they have the Steelers' fifth round pick. Sixth round, they have their own pick. This is a team that is moving in the right direction. 2 1s, 2 2s, a third, and 2 4s. That gives the Jets options next offseason to potentially trade for a veteran that's out there that could be a difference maker on this team. You know, when the Bills thought they were close, right, with getting Josh Allen help, they traded some of their picks. They traded the first round pick to get Stephon Diggs. Like, that's just an example, right? When the Cardinals thought they were close, they ripped off Bill O'Brien and the Texans and got DeAndre Hopkins, right? Kyler Murray was going into his second season. Josh Allen last year was going into his third season, right? The Jets see growth this year from Zach Wilson and this team. Then they have the draft capital to swing a trade for a veteran that could be available. There's always someone that's out there. You now have the draft capital to make that type of deal in the veteran, the veteran realm of player. But you also have now the draft capital to do what they just did this year, right? And that would be trade up in the draft for a player you really like. They used the Seattle pick and a couple extra draft picks they had to move up to 14 from 23 to get Elijah Vera Tucker. You have the same amount of draft capital again in this draft to do something similar. So these trades have just given Joe Douglas a ton of options. Now, at the end of the day, Joe Douglas has to hit on these picks. But I think the early signs of his draft record are positive, right? I think we like Mekhi Becton. I think Zach Wilson's going to be really good. We like Elijah Vera Tucker. When he gets out there, I think he's going to be a really good player. He probably was the safest draft prospect out of any of them in this draft. That's based on what all the experts have said about Elijah Vera Tucker. And then Elijah Moore being there at pick 34, like every Jet fan is on board with that. Michael Carter in the 4th round was an absolute steal. So, the point being is this. Joe Douglas has only had 2 drafts as Jets general manager because they hired him in June of 2019. The draft already happened, and McCagnon had already spent all the money in free agency. So it's going to take time. Douglas is clearly making a conscious effort to bring in his own guys and get rid of the old McCagnon players. I mean, think about this for a moment. The Jets 2019, jersey reveal party. Remember the take flight photo where you had like Darnold, Herndon, Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa. All those guys are on different teams. Jamal Adams. Like, go look at that photo from 2019, March or April, whenever that was of 2019. All those guys are off the team. So the Jets are rebuilding it the right way. They have draft capital. They have salary cap flexibility. You now reset the rookie quarterback contract with Zach Wilson. So all the ingredients are kind of being laid out for the Jets to have this foundation. It's going to come down to hitting on these picks, but the more picks you have, the more likely you hit on some of these picks, right? I mean, if you only have a couple picks every year, then yeah, you're gonna miss on some guys. Like, it happens. Joe Douglas took a swing on James Morgan in the 4th round. They cut him yesterday, right? So even the best GMs are gonna miss on picks. But the more picks you have, the more of an opportunity you have for long-term success and finding diamond in the rough type of players. So the Herndon trade to me is just another example of why Joe Douglas just gets it. Like, he knows the build through the trenches, and he knows draft capital is key. 7 draft picks inside the top 130 in next year's draft. I mean, 2 fourths now. Herndon was worth a 4th. I think that's shocking to me. Chris Herdon is not better than Tyler Croft. Physically, you could say, oh, well, Herndon's got the skill set. It doesn't translate. He hasn't been able to put it all together. He's a good blocker, but he drops the ball too much. And in this Jets offense, they just need the tight end when he's open to catch the ball. The Jets have weapons. You could actually feel good about the receivers the Jets have on this football team, right? Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder, Denzel Mims, Keelan Cole. these are good players. Like, these are guys, maybe they don't have like a true number one, but I think Corey Davis is a guy that's ascending in his career right now, still 26 years old. There's a reason why he was picked at the very top of the first round when he was coming out of school. So the Jets think they're getting a guy entering his prime. Like, you have weapons on the outside, you have weapons in the slot. They need a tight end that could catch the football. And I think Herndon has just been too unreliable, even in training camp this summer, to be that guy. So I do think they'll bring in another tight end. But I've never looked at the Jets and said, yep, they're going to be tight end oriented in this offense because the Niners had George Kittle. Like, that's just not a apples to apples comparison for how the Jets are going to be running their team. So that's my initial thought on the trade. I think Joe Douglas is great. I love the direction he has for this team. I think getting Chris Herndon, trading him away for a 4th round pick like that. Like, think about NFL trades. Like, Chris Herndon, I thought the Jets would be lucky if they got like a 6th. Got a 4th round pick for the guy. I mean, you could take that 4th round pick and use it in another trade to move up to get an even better player. So, we might be thanking Chris Herndon for his service years from now if the Jets end up, taking a player with that 4th round pick or using it in another trade. You have a lot of options when you have this many draft picks, and we saw that this past year where the Jets obviously made the move up to get a player they fell in love with in Elijah Vera-Tucker. So, very good trade, I thought, by Joe Douglas. Now, as far as the 53-man roster, I don't know if there was anything that was a huge surprise. Mike White did win the Jets backup quarterback job. There was some thought that Josh Johnson, who played really well in the last preseason game, maybe he could have stole it, but Mike White's been the backup all camp. They like Mike White a lot. He's 26 years old. Yes, he's never thrown a pass in the NFL, but you're trusting Saleh and LaFleur to have an eye for quarterback talent here, right? Mike White was 20 of 28, 166 yards in 2 preseason games, and then he got hurt. But they clearly saw enough in practice and in those 2 games to feel comfortable with him being, the backup QB. James Morgan got released. Josh Johnson got released. I think Morgan could be a practice squad type of guy, but ultimately the Jets are rolling the dice with Mike White. You could say, oh, they need to add a veteran. They need to add a veteran. And look, would I like a veteran on this team? Sure, but I just think they feel good about Zach, and they look at it like we're not trying to be a playoff team this year necessarily anyway. So, if Zach goes down, we're screwed anyway. So, I just come that we could disagree on that approach. Oh, they should bring in Nick Foles. They should bring in someone of that ilk. But ultimately, they must like Mike White, and he's been with the team for a couple of years now. He survived the Adam Gase, cleansing. So we shall see if Mike White is truly a good backup. And honestly, I hope we don't have to find that out. I hope Zach stays healthy and he plays all 17 games this year, because that's the big thing. Other things with the cuts, once again, I don't think the Jets roster is secure at this point. I think they're going to make additional moves on waiver wire claims and look to bring in some guys from the outside organization. Seeing Vincent Smith cut, maybe a slight surprise out of that wide receiver room, but Vincent Smith was getting reps with the ones over the summer, so it kind of just shows you the depth the Jets actually have at wide receiver. I don't know, though, if there was anything that was ultimately that shocking with the 53-man roster. I mean, we could say, oh, look what happened. They traded Chris Herndon and then they cut, Ryan Griffin, and look at the tight end room. I think that's the one position where they're going to add some players. I really think they're going to, use the waiver wire claim. They're going to go out there and take advantage of the fact that you were a 2-win team last year. So that means you have second claim on the waivers. Like, one of the best parts about being a bad team, if there's any best parts about being a bad team, is that you have the second claim on waivers. So expect the Jets to be active and go out there and try and improve this team. As far as looking at the practice squad, the guys that I think are obvious guys for the practice squad, if they clear waivers, Kenny Yeboah, tight end who they cut, I could see him making the Jets practice squad if they could get him back there. Isaiah Dunn, undrafted free agent cornerback who flashed a lot of potential. He's a guy I think the Jets would like to bring back. Offensive lineman David Moore could be a guy. Jeff Smith, another guy that could potentially be on this practice squad. I mentioned James Morgan as a guy on that. So there's some options here. I don't know if there was anything yesterday that was all too shocking if you've kind of been following along with how this team's going to look. So with that being said, we got about 100 people watching this live right now here on a Wednesday morning. Let's open it up to any Jet-related questions or comments about the roster, Joe Douglas's trade of Chris Herndon, and anything else. Oh, another thing I should throw out, Josh Adams was released. I know a lot of Jet fans were like, really? He looks so good. They like LaMichael Pirine. Pirine was drafted by Joe Douglas. Pirine got hurt this summer. We didn't see a lot of him in these games. but I think they still think LaMichael Pirine has upside, and they are not going to get rid of him this quickly, right? He's going to get a couple of years, I would think, in this offense, new coaching staff before they move on from another one of their draft picks. So we shall see. Let's see. Boycott Activision. There's a talented tight end that just got released. The Jets could sign. His name is Kenny Yeboah. Yeah, look, I understand fans like Yeboah. He looked good in that final preseason game. I do think he is going to be on the practice squad if they can get him back. I expect him to be on the practice squad. If Gase was responsible for bringing in Joe D, that would be the only positive thing he did. So, spin zone here. If Zach Wilson ends up being a great quarterback, that would also be the only positive thing Adam Gase did. He made Sam Darnold look so bad that the Jets knew they had to move on from Sam and take a quarterback second overall, and that quarterback is Zach Wilson. Larry writes in, letting Josh Adams walk was the biggest mistake since Woodhead. I don't know about that, man. Josh Adams has kind of bounced around. The Jets like their running back room. Look, he looked good, but I don't think Josh Adams is Danny Woodhead all over again. If he is, look, Larry, you called it first on the channel, and we'll send you a prize or something. I don't think it's going to be that. Jason writes in, your thoughts on the likelihood that Brown or Griffin were cut with a handshake agreement to re-sign once people get moved onto IR. That is also a possibility. I think that's an interesting point from Jason. That could be the case. You see teams do this a lot, moving guys around and kind of the wink-wink agreement. Brian Hoyer comes to mind with the Patriots. Seems like they release him every year just to bring him back, and there's like a handshake agreement there. I suppose that's possible. I do think the Jets are going to look to upgrade a tight end, though. I think they like Croft. Croft made the play in Green Bay to win the job as tight end one, but I don't think the Jets are by any means set at tight end. Zuniga made the roster, but Yeboah got cut. Look, Zuniga was a guy they drafted. It's as simple as that. GMs are protective over their picks. Zuniga's been hurt too. I don't know if we could close the door on what he is as a player until we see him out there in this defensive system throughout the course of the season. So we shall see there. Did anyone pick up Josh Adams? Not yet, but waivers are a 24-hour period of time, so we shall see. Roe writes in, which position will you fill with waivers and which one with a trade? I think any of those positions you mentioned, tight end, corner, edge, are possible waiver claim options for the Jets. There's certainly no doubt about that. I do think they could swing a trade as well. One of the things about having draft capital is that, well, you can swing trades. And I just outlined the amount of picks the Jets have in next year's draft, right? 10 picks in total, 7 inside the top 130 in the draft. So if there is a guy out there that makes sense for the Jets to make a trade for, they're in position to do that. Ultimate Warrior writes in, next year we got 60 mil plus in cap and a boatload of draft picks. Yeah, if Jet fans go into this year knowing that it's a rebuild year, knowing that if you win 6 games this year, and I'd like to see the Jets win more than that, but let's say the bar is 6 wins. That's tripling your win total from last year. So put that in perspective here, right? To me, the biggest thing I want to see this season is Wilson play well, get better as the year goes on. Young players get better under Coach Saleh and LaFleur. And, I just want to get a feel, like the eye test tells you that this team is moving in the right direction. Like the Chargers went 7-9 last year, but you feel like they're moving in the right direction with Justin Herbert. I'd like to feel that way with the Jets at the end of the season here. PCR writes in, it's almost ridiculous at this point. Joe Douglas is schooling the rest of the league for general managers. I think Joe Douglas has done a great job. It's going to come down to hitting on these picks, but I like the moves in free agency. The Jets don't overspend on guys. Notice all the free agents the Jets brought in that they paid any considerable amount of money to, right? Carl Lawson and Corey Davis, 26, 27 years old, guys that they think are on their second contract, about to hit their prime, not leaving their prime. Like Le'Veon Bell was a Mike McCagnon move. Corey Davis is the type of move that Joe Douglas makes. There's a big difference there. I long lost patience with Herndon. Good riddance. Yeah, MLL, I think a lot of people feel the same way. I mean, I like Chris Herdon. I wish him all the best, but it just was not going to work out here with the Jets. I think the Jets knew it, and deep down inside, I'm sure Herndon's happy. He's getting a fresh start somewhere else. Does anyone believe we could beat Carolina? I do. Yeah, why not? I mean, let's be honest here. Carolina is not a, they're not the 07 Patriots you're playing on opening day. Yeah, it's on the road, but there will be a lot of Jet fans in Carolina. We all know Sam Darnold is a huge question mark at quarterback for them. I think the Jets are just as good as the Carolina Panthers. I don't think anyone should be shocked if the Jets win week 1. I mean, come on. No way. And it's not like the Jets are a heavy underdog in that game as well. I'd have to check the spread, but I don't think it's anything crazy for week 1 in that game. Drew writes in, would you flip the 4th round pick we just received from Minnesota to get Zach Ertz, essentially giving up a 6th round to the Vikings for Zach Ertz? The reason why Zach Ertz has not been traded yet, though, Drew, is because I think Philly's holding out for more. So I don't think that's a possibility at this point. You probably would have to give up more than a 4th round pick. If he only goes for a 4th round pick, then yeah, I think the Jets should make a call. Why not? Let's try and improve your team, give Zach Wilson a reliable tight end target, all that. But I think they're going to need – the Eagles are looking for more than just a 4th. I think that's a big reason why he hasn't been traded to this point. Another one here from Sinkhead. It's clear this trade gives the Jets draft capital they could use to acquire a tight end and/or an additional defensive end. Draft capital is draft capital. I outlined it before. Could be a veteran in the offseason. Could be a player you target in the draft, and the 4th round pick you got from Herndon is used in the package to move up. I mean, the Sam Darnold trade, the Herndon trade, the Jamal Adams trade have set this franchise up now for all these draft capital, all these picks to put them in position to be aggressive either in the draft or in the offseason acquiring a player. The next time a DeAndre Hopkins is available, the Jets should be in on him. The next time a Stephon Diggs is available, the Jets should be in on him. That's what having draft capital does. That's what having a quarterback on a rookie contract does. You have Zach cheap for a number of years. You have to surround him with talent and try and maximize this window of opportunity that you are going to have over the next couple of seasons. There's no doubt about that. Hater writes in, and Hater, I appreciate you watching the show, but a Jets fan since 75. I don't remember a GM like Joe Diaz. Fans, we got to keep things in perspective. The whole not just in bits and pieces. He's positioned us in a great situation. This is why you got to give GMs time. Now, there are exceptions. John Izek was horrendous. I had no issue with the Jets firing him after just 2 seasons. There were people that were saying, no, you got to give a GM more time than that. In theory, you do. Not when you saw how bad of a job Izek did in his 2 years. Not when you saw how bad the Izek 12 draft was and the previous draft after that. Like, you could not give that guy more time, right? Most GMs, though, need more time. Joe Douglas got here in June of 2019. He didn't have an offseason. He didn't have the draft. So anything Joe did, you got to give him an extra year on top of that because you can't count 2019 as a year for Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas's time with the Jets started in 2020 with the 2020 draft and free agency. That is now followed over this offseason where he is now going into his 3rd season technically as the GM, although it's really 2 if you consider, when he was brought in. He's now made his mark on the team. He has stamped this team. The Adams trade was his decision, getting the draft capital. Saleh was his decision, hiring his head coach. Wilson was his decision, getting his quarterback. You have to now judge Joe Douglas from 2020 to now. I throw out everything from that Fugazi, 7-win season in 2019. Hulk Smash writes in, I disagree. Herndon isn't bad. He was never really used. The last time the Jets ever used a tight end was Dustin Keller. Herndon had so many opportunities, man. He dropped how many passes, man. Look, I wish Chris Herdon the best. I was high on Chris Herdon going into 2019. He's been suspended. He's been injured. He drops passes. They gave him plenty of chances. They gave him every opportunity with the ones to win the job this summer. He couldn't do it. What does that tell you? Kenton writes in, the table's been set. Now we start to eat in 3 years. I would believe we will be making some noise, like real noise. How about next year? Make some noise. Quarterback on a rookie deal. Year 2, they take that big step forward. How many quarterbacks we've seen go to the playoffs in their second year? Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl in his second year. Carson Wentz and the Eagles took massive step forwards in his second year. Jared Goff, the same thing. Look, the table's been set. Now you gotta just continue to add to it and hope these young players continue to develop. Our guy So Crates Johnson, YouTube. What's up, Jake Asman voice? I love that one. Thanks for watching, my man. Is there any projected Revis type in this upcoming draft? I think drafting a shutdown corner next year is a priority. The Revis type you refer to, no one knew Darrelle Revis was going to be Darrelle Revis, just to put that out there. Darrelle Revis was the 14th overall pick in the 07 draft. I think if teams knew Darrelle Revis would be one of the best cover corners ever, he would have been drafted a little higher, right? The Jets traded up for Darrelle Revis. They didn't even think he'd be this good. So you never know. Look, I don't even want to think about the draft. We're focused on the season, but there'll be some guys, I'm sure, that emerge as really good cornerback prospects. And I think the Jets will be in the mix to potentially add one of those guys to their team in the draft. So we shall see how that ultimately works out here. Let's see. Raw Power writes in, trading Herndon sends a message to the team about expectations. Yeah, I mean, if you preach competition, which the Jets have preached all summer, then you got to give the job to the guy that's earned the job. And Croft earned the job. And I think they could bring back Brown, or they could bring back Herndon if they clear waivers and whatnot, as Jason, one of the viewers, mentioned. But I also think the Jets are going to look to upgrade at tight end and potentially bring somebody in. Chris Herdon wasn't a guy that made a ton of sense. Jason writes in, thoughts on a 3-0 start. We start versus Darnold, Mac Jones, and Bridgewater. Really, if you look at the Jets' first 8 games, it's not exactly a murderer's row of quarterbacks. Now, do I think the Jets are going to start 3-0? I don't. Could they be 2-1, though, through 3 games? Yeah. The tricky thing is I really have no idea the order in which they win some of these games. Like, I could see the Jets winning week 1. I could see them losing week 1. Same with week 2 and week 3. So I don't necessarily know the order of which they'll win these games and whatnot, but I do think the Jets could get off to a nice start. And wouldn't that be nice for once to have a season that doesn't end by Columbus Day? I mean, the last couple of years, it's been a joke. Even in 2019, where they ended up finishing 7-9 with a 6-2 second half, they started 1-7 that year. So, it'd be nice if we could at least feel like the Jets are in the mix early on here and really excite this fan base going forward. What about our outside linebackers? I feel that's where we're thin. Yeah, look, the Jets are certainly thin there. Losing Jarrad Davis is a big blow, but you obviously, can't fill every hole in one offseason. That could be a spot the Jets look to use some waivers on. And, obviously a big key for the Jets linebacking core is going to be CJ Mosley. They're running a 4-3, so you have one less linebacker out there on the field this year in that style of defense under Saleh and Albrecht. So we shall see how that plays out. My brother writes in, Zach Asman, Jets might have only won 2 games last year, but they really should have taken 4. There could have been games that the Jets won last year that they didn't. Now, that happens every year with every team, but I mean, come on. One of the games the Jets should have won and didn't was the Lamar Jackson and isolation game where the Jets and Greg Williams sent the Kachunga blitz against the Raiders at the end, and they lost at the buzzer. So, yeah, they only won 2 games last year, but my brother is right. I mean, they could have very easily won a couple games. Can we trade Rich Cimini for you? Garrett writes in. Hey, Rich is my guy, man. Rich has been coming on my show since I was doing radio at Ithaca College back in the day. So I got nothing but nice things to say about Rich Cimini, but I appreciate the kind words. I will have Rich on this channel. I've been texting back and forth with him to get him on, and we'll open it up to Q&A so you guys could ask your questions if you got any gripes with Rich and his coverage of the team. Thing is, Rich has been doing it for 30 years, so let's be honest, Jet fans, it's been more negative than good. So I think over time, that's maybe why Rich comes off as a bit of a cynic at times, let's say, with the Jets. But Rich is a good guy. I've met him off the air, he's come on my show on the air, so nothing but respect for Rich. Hater writes in, Joe D's positioned us well for the future, cleaned up our cap, got rid of underperformers, and we have 2 1s, 2 2s, 3, 2 4s, 5s. Yeah, plus a lot of cap space. Let's go, Jets. The Jets have an enormous amount of cap space. Enormous. Because then they also could restructure guys that they brought in as well. That's what good teams do. Good teams never have to really worry about the salary cap. Like the Rams were able to keep all their star players and manipulate their cap. There's ways to do it. I've always said the salary cap in the NFL is like the $5 footlong from Subway. It's a farce. It doesn't actually exist. Good teams are able to figure out a way to manipulate it. So I'm not worried about the cap. I think the Jets are smart there. I think they have draft picks. They're not paying Zach Wilson any money on a rookie contract. So they're in a good spot here. Michael writes in, fantastic job. Joe D's done. Let's keep the picks and see how this team plays out. No doubt. You should feel good about the direction this team is headed. They obviously now need to win games, and they need to show signs of growth and improvement this year. But does anyone think they're going to be worse? I mean, they won 2 games last year, right? So this team is clearly headed in the right direction. I think they could win more than 6 games, but I think at the minimum, they're a 6-win team. And if you win 6 games, that's tripling your win total from a year ago. So put things in perspective. There's no doubt about that. Steven writes in, at right guard, tight end corner, is Bushman of the Raiders available? He has a connection with Zach Wilson. I have not heard anything about that. I don't even know if that has necessarily been rumored. You can't fix every hole in one offseason, right? The Jets obviously would love to improve at tight end, corner, right guard. Hell, they'd love to add a really good pass rusher to try and make up for Carl Lawson. You just can't do it. This is a team that doesn't have Super Bowl aspirations. This is a team that's growing, trying to get better. So they're not in a position right now where they could fix all their holes. But that's why you have 10 draft picks, 7 of them in the first 4 rounds next year. It's why you have cap flexibility. And it's why you hopefully have a GM that you believe in Joe Douglas. D. Rivera writes in, with tight end and outside linebacker thin, Which do we do the waiver wire on? Which do we trade for? Trade, waiver wire, any of the positions of need they're going to look to address. And that includes quarterback, by the way. If there's a notable backup that they think is an upgrade over what they have, they could bring in a backup quarterback. There were a couple guys that got cut yesterday that you could say, maybe they could bring that player in. I know a lot of Jet fans were like, Brian Hoyer's available. He's a perfect veteran. Well, the Jets had Brian Hoyer visit with them when they didn't sign him. So what does that tell you? Nick Mullins got cut. Nick Mullins, they could have had all offseason, and they chose not to. So what does that tell you? We might not like to hear it, but I think the Jets genuinely do believe in Mike White as their backup quarterback. So there you go at the end of the day. I think that's going to be your team for right now. A. Mitch writes in, linebackers have to show out and follow CJ's lead for us to have a chance. The pass rush needs to be great. That will help the linebacking core. If CJ Mosley's really good, that obviously helps. But there's no secret. The Jets are thin at the wide receiver spot, or at the cornerback spot, excuse me. So there's going to be games where they get crushed. There's going to be games where those guys, because of their youth and inexperience, they're going to get beat. Every corner gets beat. You're talking about a bunch of young players. It's going to happen. For the Jets defense to be good, it starts with their edge. And not having Carl Lawson, we all know, is a huge, huge blow. But they do have some players there. I think Quinton Williams now going into what's about to be, his third season in the NFL could take a big, big step forward. John Franklin Myers impressed. Bryce Huff is a player. Sheldon Rankins, I think it could be one of the keys to the entire defense. If he's good up the middle, that opens up so much for the Jets and the defensive line. So, yeah, the linebackers are important, but the key to this defense, the key to Andy Roberts' solid defense and his time as a DC, it starts with the pass rush, and I think the Jets should be in position, even without Lawson, to still get some pressure up the middle. Guys, hit the like for Jake. Hell yeah. 169 of you are watching this live. That means I should have 169 likes, right? That's right down below. Subscribe to the show if you're watching for the first time. And, of course, you'll see my Twitter handles down below as well. At Jake Asman is where you could follow me. Chris writes in, how about trading for O.J. Mayo on Tampa for our second tight end? We have plenty of picks next year. I'm all for it. Maybe that is an option. I have not heard anything about that being something that the Jets are going to do. I think it's more likely the Jets use waivers to try and find their tight end spot than use any draft capital on filling that need. I think they like the fact they got a fourth for Herndon. I can't see them flipping that pick for a tight end. I think they're going to use waivers for that one. Jason writes in, thoughts on Jeff Smith making the team over Vincent Smith? A bit of a surprise because Vincent Smith has been on special teams, but that just kind of tells you how tough the decisions were for the Jets in that wide receiver room because, Vincent Smith was getting reps with the ones throughout the summer, so they clearly like their group. They like that room a lot, and they should. I mean, clearly the Jets have finally upgraded enough at wide receiver where they're not throwing to Chris Hogan on opening day. Like, say whatever you want about Sam Darnold, he didn't have a chance last year with the team they put around him and the coach that they gave him. There's no doubt about that. Are we set at kicker for the year? Amendola's the guy. He had a 50-plus yard kick in Green Bay. He didn't implode against the Eagles. For better or worse, this guy won the job, and hopefully he's good, right? Wouldn't that be nice if the Jets could have some reliability at the kicker spot? Nicholas writes in, KJ Wright still out there. Desmond Trufant played with Ulbrich. Would you target either one? I'm good with either one, but usually when guys are still out there this late, there's a reason for it. So just keep that in mind. So, if some of these contending teams aren't bringing in two veterans like KJ Wright or Desmond Trufant, what does that tell you? That would always be the question that I would ask there. So overall, I like where the Jets are at from a roster standpoint. There'll be more moves. This is not the team that they're going to probably bring to Carolina in week one, but I don't think there was anything that shocking yesterday. The move of the day, to me, clearly trading Chris Herndon and somehow getting a fourth-round pick. Guys, this has been a ton of fun. I appreciate all of you for watching this video here on a Wednesday morning. Should anything break today, anything major happen, we will produce another video on this very channel. All I need you to do is subscribe down below, like this video, hit the like button, smash the like button, and I appreciate you all for watching this channel. Thanks so much. Have a good Wednesday, and we are another day closer to the start of the NFL season. Have a good one, everybody. Jake Asman signing off. See ya.